Bargdowen stood at the observation window of the Coalition flagship Eternal Harmony and watched the stars drift by. Behind him, dozens of alien species moved through the corridors, talking in languages that clicked and hummed and sang. He had lived among them for 15 years now, and he still found them beautiful. A tall insectoid creature approached him. Ambassador Thrall of the Velith Dominion stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the starlight like broken mirrors. Despite his frightening appearance, Thrall was one of the kindest beings Do-Hyun had ever known. "My friend," Thrall said, his voice a gentle buzz. "You seem troubled today." Do-Hyun smiled and shook his head. "Not troubled. Just thinking." "About what?" "About how lucky we are," Do-Hyun said. 60 years ago, humans were alone in the universe. Now look at us. Part of something bigger. Thrall made a sound that passed for laughter among his kind. "You humans are always so grateful." "It is charming. Most species join the coalition and immediately demand things. You asked how you could help." This was true. When humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel in 2347, they found a galaxy already filled with life. The coalition had existed for 3,000 years, a vast confederation of over 200 species. They had expected humans to be difficult, as new species often were. Instead, humans had been humble, curious, and eager to contribute. In the decades since, humanity had become known throughout the galaxy for their art, their food, their music, and their diplomacy. Human traders were welcomed everywhere. Human artists were celebrated. Human diplomats like Do-Hyun were trusted to negotiate the most sensitive agreements. What humans were not known for was fighting. Thrall tilted his head, studying Do-Hyun with those strange eyes. "I have always wondered something about your people." "Ask anything." "You have no natural weapons," Thrall said. "No claws, no fangs, no venom. Your eyes cannot see in darkness. Your hearing is poor. Your skin is soft." He gestured at Do-Hyun's body as if examining a puzzle. "How did you survive on your world?" Do-Hyun kept his smile in place. This question came up often. Every alien species had some obvious advantage. The Velith had their armored shells and 4 arms. The reptilian Sethrak had claws that could cut through metal. Even the small furry Milani had venomous bites. Humans had none of these things. To the galaxy, they were soft, weak, and lucky to be alive. Earth was a gentle world, Do-Hyun said. It was the answer all humans gave. We did not need weapons. Thrall accepted this, as everyone always did. Why would they doubt it? Humans were so clearly peaceful. Across the ship, Kim Yuna sat in the cultural archive, surrounded by holographic displays showing the histories of 100 worlds. She was a xenolinguist, a student of alien languages and customs, and she had spent 20 years documenting the cultures of coalition species. Every species had warriors. Every single one. The Velith had their blade casts, soldiers bred for combat over thousands of generations. The Sethrak had their honor guard, fighters who trained from birth. Even the peaceful, philosophical Anduin had their temple defenders. Every species in the galaxy had a warrior tradition. Except humans. Yuna scrolled through her notes on human culture, the official version that the Coalition had access to. It spoke of farming, art, exploration, and cooperation. It mentioned none of the other things. None of the wars. None of the weapons. None of the blood. Her console beeped with an incoming message. She opened it and felt her stomach drop. It was a priority alert from Coalition High Command. The Krath hegemony had returned. Within hours, the news spread across the galaxy like fire. The Krath were ancient enemies, a brutal empire that had terrorized known space centuries ago. They had been defeated, driven into the dark spaces between galaxies and forgotten. Now they were back, and they were hungry. Dormant attended the emergency council meeting as humanity's representative. He watched as alien leaders argued and panicked. The Krath had already conquered 3 border worlds. Their fleet was massive, their soldiers ruthless. They took slaves and destroyed everything they could not use. "We must mobilize," said the Sethrak commander, his scales flushed with anger. "Every species must contribute their warriors." "Our military is not prepared," admitted the Velith High General. "We have kept peace for so long. We have forgotten how to wage war." This was the truth that no one wanted to say. The coalition had not fought a real war in over 1,000 years. Their military was designed for peacekeeping, for stopping pirates and settling disputes. They were not ready for an enemy like the Krath. One by one, the alien leaders turned to look at each other, searching for hope. One by one, their eyes passed over Do-Yoon without stopping. Why would they look to humans for military help? Humans were traders, artists, diplomats. Do-Yoon said nothing. He kept his face calm and his hands still. Inside, something stirred. Something old. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. When the meeting ended, he returned to his quarters and opened a secure channel to Earth. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to a woman he had never met, but whose authority he recognized immediately. "Ambassador Park," she said. "We have been watching the situation." "Then, you know what is coming." "We do." The woman's eyes were hard as stone. "The question is whether the galaxy is ready to learn the truth about humanity." Do-Yoon thought about Thrall, about his kind words and gentle mockery. He thought about all the aliens who saw humans as soft, harmless creatures from a gentle world. He thought about the mask his species had worn for 60 years. "They may have no choice," he said. The woman nodded. "Then we wait. We watch. And when the time comes, we remind the galaxy what we really are." The channel closed. Do-Yoon stood alone in his quarters, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Krath were coming. They thought they knew what humans were. They were wrong. They were so very wrong. The cargo ship Morning Star drifted dead in space. Its engines were cold, its lights were dark, and its crew knelt on the floor of the main hold with their hands behind their heads. Krath soldiers stood over them, weapons ready, their gray skin marked with ritual scars that told stories of conquest and blood. Captain Lee Jung-ho kept his eyes on the floor and his breathing steady. Around him, the other prisoners wept and trembled. There were 30 of them in total. Most were aliens from different coalition species. 4 were human. The Krath commander walked among them, his heavy boots striking the metal floor like drumbeats. He was massive, nearly 7 feet tall, with muscles that looked carved from stone. His eyes were black and empty, like holes in the universe. "Sort them," he ordered. "The strong go to the mines. The weak go to the pits." His soldiers moved through the prisoners, grabbing them, examining them. The Velith crew members were taken first, their forearms seen as useful for labor. The Sethrak pilot was dragged away for the fighting pits, where slaves killed each other for Krath entertainment. When the soldiers reached the humans, they paused. Junho felt rough hands grab his chin and force his head up. The Krath soldier examined him like a farmer examining livestock. He squeezed Junho's arm, checked his teeth, looked into his eyes. "This one has no claws," the soldier said. "No scales. No armor. What use is it?" The commander approached. He studied Junho for a long moment, then laughed. It was an ugly sound, like bones breaking. "These are humans," he said. "I read about them. They come from a gentle world. They have no warriors, no weapons, no fighting spirit." He grabbed Junho's face and turned it side to side. "Look at these soft eyes. There is nothing dangerous here. He released Junho and stepped back. Put them with the labor stock. They can carry rocks until they die. The soldiers dragged the humans away. Junho did not resist. He let them throw him into a holding cell with a dozen other prisoners. He sat against the cold wall and watched and waited. Beside him, Choi Minji was already working. She was the ship's engineer, a small woman with clever hands and quiet eyes. While the other prisoners cried and prayed, she examined the walls, the door, the floor. She picked up a piece of scrap metal that had fallen from somewhere and turned it over in her fingers. "What are you doing?" whispered a Velith prisoner. His name was Torath, and his shell was cracked from where the Krath had beaten him. "We are doomed. There is no escape." Minji did not look up. "There is always escape. You are mad. The Krath have conquered 100 worlds. No one escapes them." Junho spoke for the first time since their capture. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "Tell me about the Krath," he said. "How many guards are on this ship? What weapons do they carry? When did they change shifts?" Torath stared at him. "Why do you want to know this?" "Because I need to know. It does not matter. We cannot fight them. Look at you. You are small, weak, unarmed. What could you possibly do?" Junho smiled. It was a strange smile, one that did not reach his eyes. You would be surprised. Over the next 3 days, Junho watched. He noted every guard that passed their cell. He counted their weapons, measured their response times, memorized their patrol patterns. He spoke quietly with the other human prisoners, a young man named Kan Jinho and an older woman named Issei Ohana. They nodded and listened and began watching too. Minji continued her work. The scrap metal became a blade. A broken wire became a garrote. A loose bolt became a weapon that could crack a skull. The alien prisoners did not understand. They saw the humans sitting quietly, speaking softly, and thought they had given up hope. They did not see the calculation in human eyes. They did not recognize what was happening. On the 4th day, Torath finally asked the question, "What are you planning?" Junho looked at him. Really looked at him, for the first time. "When I was young," Junho said, "my grandmother told me stories about our ancestors. She told me about men who crossed frozen mountains to fight their enemies. She told me about women who burned their own cities rather than surrender. She told me about soldiers who fought to the last breath, the last bullet, the last drop of blood." He leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. "My people have been at war with ourselves for 200,000 years. We killed each other with rocks, with spears, with swords, with guns, with bombs that could destroy cities. We only stopped because we chose to. Because we were tired of the blood." Torath's compound eyes went wide. But the Coalition records say... The Coalition records say what we wanted them to say." Junho's smile was gone now. His face was cold, hard, like something ancient and terrible waking from a long sleep. "We wore a mask. We pretended to be harmless because we were afraid of what we really are." He stood up. In the dim light of the cell, he seemed larger somehow, more dangerous. "The Krath think we are prey. They think we are soft, weak, helpless." He picked up the blade Minji had made and tested its edge against his thumb. A thin line of red appeared. "They are wrong." That night, when the guards came to take prisoners from the mines, the humans moved. It was fast, silent, and brutal. Junho took the first guard's throat before he could scream. Minji disabled the second with a strike to the base of the skull. Jinho and Hana handled the third and fourth dot in less than 10 seconds. 4 Krath soldiers lay dead on the floor. Torath stared at the bodies, then at the humans. His voice shook. "What? What are you?" Junho wiped blood from his hands. His eyes were different now. Older, harder, full of something that had been locked away for 60 years. "We are human," he said, "and we are just getting started." Ansoin had been a teacher before the Krath came. She taught children about stars and planets and the wonders of the universe. Now she taught something very different. The basement of the destroyed school building was dark and cold. 40 refugees huddled in the shadows, aliens and humans together, listening to her speak. Above them, Krath patrols marched through the streets of the conquered city. "Today," Soin said, "I'm going to tell you about human history. Real human history. Not the stories we shared with the galaxy." She activated a small holographic projector. Images appeared in the air, images that no alien had ever seen. "This is called a sword," she said. "Humans used these to kill each other for thousands of years. We became very good at it." The image changed. Now it showed soldiers in ancient armor, then soldiers with rifles, then soldiers in modern combat gear. "This is called war. Humans have been fighting wars since before we could write. We fought over land, over resources, over ideas, over nothing at all. We invented 1,000 ways to kill each other." A young Velith raised his hand. His name was Korath, and he had lost his entire family to the Krath. "Why are you telling us this?" Soin smiled. It was not a kind smile, because the Krath think they understand violence. They think they are the masters of war. She turned off the projector. They are children playing with toys, and it is time someone taught them what real war looks like. Across the occupied territories, similar scenes were happening. Humans who had spent their lives as farmers, artists, and teachers were remembering older skills. Skills that had been passed down through generations. Skills that humanity had hoped to never use again. On the northern continent, Big Tayan led a group of fighters through the forest. He had been an athlete before the invasion, a runner who competed in galactic games. Now he used his speed and endurance for different purposes. His group had been ambushing Krath patrols for 2 weeks. They struck fast, killed quickly, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. The aliens in his group were amazed by his abilities. "How do you move so quietly?" asked a Sethrak fighter named Vess. "You have no training in stealth." Taeyon laughed softly. "My grandfather taught me to hunt when I was a boy. He said our family had been hunters for 10,000 years. The skills are in our blood." He did not mention that his grandfather had also been a soldier, or that the hunting techniques he used were the same ones human special forces had used for centuries. Some things were better left unsaid. That night, they attacked a Krath supply depot. Taeyon killed 6 soldiers with his bare hands before anyone knew what was happening. The aliens watched in horror and awe as this soft, clawless human broke necks and crushed windpipes with movements that seemed almost beautiful. When it was over, Vess approached him. The Sethrak scales were pale with shock. "I have trained in combat my entire life," she said. "I have never seen anyone fight like that." Taeyon wiped blood from his knuckles. "Every human can do this. We just choose not to. Why?" He looked at her with eyes that held centuries of sorrow. "Because once we start, it is very hard to stop." In the depths of space, the Krath High Command was receiving disturbing reports. Prisoners were escaping. Patrols were disappearing. Supply lines were being cut. High Prelate Kazuth sat on his throne of bones and listened to his generals explain their failures. He was ancient by Krath standards, a veteran of 100 conquests. He had never heard reports like these. "The humans," one general said, "they are different than we expected." "Explain." "They do not break. Other species, when we capture them, they surrender. They beg, they give up hope. The humans do not." Kazuth leaned forward. "They are a soft species, weak. Our intelligence was clear. Our intelligence was wrong." The general pulled up a holographic display. It showed security footage from a prison ship. Watch. Kazuth watched. He saw 4 humans, unarmed and outnumbered, kill 8 Krath soldiers in under 30 seconds. He saw them move with a speed and precision that should have been impossible. He saw them show no fear, no hesitation, no mercy. "This is not possible," he said. "There is more." The general changed the display. Now it showed reports from across the occupied territories. Human-led resistance groups. Human-organized escapes. Human tactics that the Krath had never seen before. "They call it guerrilla warfare," the general said. "It is a human invention. They strike, they vanish, they strike again. Our soldiers are afraid to sleep." Kazuth stood. His massive form cast a shadow across the throne room. "Send more troops. Crush them. We have tried. They adapt. Every tactic we use, they counter. Every trap we set, they avoid. It is like fighting smoke." The High Prelate was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was different, uncertain, perhaps even afraid. "What are they?" No one had an answer. On Earth, the Coalition's desperate message had finally arrived. The response was already prepared. It had been prepared for 60 years, waiting for this moment. In hidden bases beneath mountains and oceans, lights flickered on. In shipyards disguised as asteroid mines, engines began to warm. In training facilities that officially did not exist, soldiers checked their weapons and said goodbye to their families. Admiral Shin Yunji stood on the bridge of the flagship Unconquered Sun and read the activation order. She had waited her entire career for this day. Part of her had hoped it would never come. She pressed the fleet-wide communication button. Her voice reached 10,000 ships and 5 million soldiers. "This is Admiral Shin," she said. "The mask comes off today. Remember what we are. Remember why we hid. And remember that we fight not because we love war, but because we love what war protects." She paused. When she spoke again, her voice was iron. "All units, prepare for deployment. Humanity goes to war." The Coalition delegation arrived at the human fleet's position, expecting to find a small defense force. What they found instead made them forget how to speak. Ships filled the void. Thousands of them. Warships bristling with weapons, carriers launching fighters, support vessels moving in perfect formation. The fleet stretched across space like a metal ocean, blocking out the stars themselves. Ambassador Thrall stood at the viewport of his shuttle, his forearms hanging limp at his sides. Beside him, representatives from 12 Coalition species stared in equal shock. "This is impossible," whispered a Sethrak admiral. "Where did this come from?" A human officer guided them to the flagship Unconquered Sun. The ship was massive, larger than any vessel the Coalition had ever built. Its hull was scarred with old battle damage that had been repaired, but never hidden. This ship had seen war before. Admiral Shin Yunji met them in the command center. She was a small woman with gray hair and eyes like winter ice. She wore a uniform covered in medals that the aliens did not recognize. "Welcome aboard," she said. "I apologize for the surprise. We have kept certain things private." Thrall found his voice. "Private? You have hidden an entire military." "Yes. Why?" Yunji gestured to a screen. It displayed Earth's true history. Wars, weapons, death tolls that made the aliens gasp. "Because we were afraid of ourselves," she said. 200 years ago, we almost destroyed our own world. We had weapons that could burn cities in seconds, poison the air for generations, kill millions with a single strike. We used them on each other. The images kept coming. Ancient battles, medieval sieges, modern warfare, nuclear explosions blooming like terrible flowers. When we reached the stars and found the Coalition, we saw something beautiful. Peaceful species working together. No wars, no conquests, no endless cycle of violence. Yunji's voice softened. We wanted to be part of that. We wanted to leave our past behind. So you lied, Thrall said. We hid. There is a difference. She turned to face him directly. If we had shown the galaxy what we truly were, what would have happened? Would you have welcomed us? Or would you have feared us? Isolated us? Tried to destroy us before we could become a threat? Thrall could not answer. He knew what the coalition would have done. Dr. No Jiwoo stepped forward. He was an older man, a military historian who had spent his life studying human warfare. Let me explain something, he said. Every species in this galaxy has warriors. But your warriors fight because they must. Humans fight because we are built for it. He pulled up biological data on the screen. Our bodies produce chemicals during combat that make us stronger, faster, more focused. We call it adrenaline. Fear does not paralyze us. It powers us. Pain does not stop us. It makes us angry. The data changed to show psychological profiles. Our minds are designed to survive. We adapt to any situation. We learn from every defeat. We never, ever give up. Jiwoo looked at the alien delegation. Other species break under pressure. Humans are forged by it. General O. Kangman entered the room. He was a giant of a man, his body covered in scars from battles the aliens could not imagine. He had fought in what humans called the last human war, the conflict that had finally convinced humanity to pursue peace. I have killed more beings than anyone in this room can count, he said. His voice was flat and motionless. I do not say this with pride. I say it so you understand. When we fight, we do not stop until the enemy cannot fight anymore. Ever. He activated a tactical display showing the Krath territories. We have analyzed their defenses, their fleet positions, their supply lines. We have identified 17 critical targets. Strike them in the right order, and the Krath hegemony falls in 18 months. The Sethrek admiral sputtered. 18 months? The Krath have conquered half the galaxy. They have been planning this invasion for centuries. Kamen looked at him. They have been planning to fight the coalition. They have not been planning to fight us. The first human assault came 3 days later. The Krath expected a standard coalition attack, slow and cautious, focused on minimizing casualties. What they got was something from a nightmare. Human ships did not fight like coalition ships. They did not stand at distance and exchange fire. They charged directly into enemy formations, accepting damage to deal damage. They used tactics that seemed suicidal, sacrificing ships to create openings, ramming vessels into critical targets, fighting until their weapons melted, and then fighting with their engines. On the ground, human soldiers were worse. They did not advance in neat lines. They spread like water, finding every weakness, exploiting every gap. They fought in buildings, in tunnels, in the dark. They fought with rifles, with knives, with their bare hands. A captured Krath commander was brought before Admiral Yunji. He was broken, his eyes empty, his spirit crushed. He had seen his entire fleet destroyed in 6 hours. "What are you?" he asked. It was the same question Torath had asked. The same question the entire galaxy was asking. Yunji considered her answer carefully. "We are what happens when a species survives a death world," she said. "We are what happens when evolution creates the perfect predator and then forces it to become prey. We are 200,000 years of war compressed into human form." She leaned close to the Krath commander. "You thought you were conquerors. You thought you understood violence. But you have never met anything like us. We are not your enemies. We are your extinction." The commander began to weep. Back on the unconquered sun, Yunji addressed her fleet. Behind her, the burning wreckage of the Krath Armada drifted through space. For 60 years, we wore a mask, she said. We pretended to be harmless. We let the galaxy think we were weak. Her voice hardened. Today, the mask comes off. Today, we show the universe what humanity truly is. Not traitors. Not artists. Not diplomats. She raised her fist. We are the gods of war. And we have finally awakened. The last Krath fortress burned. Admiral Shin Wonji watched from the bridge of the unconquered sun as human ships finished their work. 18 months of war, exactly as General Kangman had predicted. The Krath hegemony, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was gone. Not defeated. Not conquered. Gone. The Krath had taken slaves. They had tortured prisoners. They had destroyed civilian populations for sport. Humanity had responded in the only way they knew how. Total war. Complete destruction. No mercy, no surrender, no survivors who could rebuild and threaten the galaxy again. Yunji felt no joy. She had done what needed to be done. That was all. President Yoon Sung-ho arrived at Coalition headquarters 1 month later. The station was the same as it had always been, a shining symbol of galactic cooperation. But everything had changed. The alien representatives who greeted him did not smile. They did not offer words of welcome. They stared at him with eyes full of fear and wonder and something that might have been horror. Seung-ho understood. He had seen the same look on the faces of his own people long ago when they first understood what humanity was capable of. Thank you for meeting with me, he said. I know this is difficult. Ambassador Thrall stepped forward. His compound eyes were unreadable. Difficult? He repeated. You lied to us for 60 years. You hid a military that could destroy any species in this galaxy. You let us believe you were harmless while you prepared for war. Yes. Why? Why hide? Why pretend? Seung-ho took a deep breath. He had practiced this speech many times, but the words still felt heavy. Because we were ashamed. The room went quiet. Humanity spent 200,000 years killing itself. We fought wars over land, over food, over ideas, over nothing at all. We invented weapons that could end all life on our world, and we used them. We burned cities, slaughtered innocents, committed horrors that still haunt our dreams. He looked at each alien representative in turn. When we reached the stars, we found something we had never known. Peace. Real peace. Species that worked together instead of fighting. Civilizations that built instead of destroyed. His voice cracked slightly. We wanted to be part of that. We wanted to prove that we could be more than killers. So you hid your weapons, Thrall said. You pretended to be traitors and artists. We became traitors and artists. The pretending became real. Seung-ho's eyes were wet now. For 60 years, no human died in war. No human killed in anger. We thought maybe, just maybe, we had finally escaped our nature. He looked at the floor. And then the Krath came, and we learned the truth. We cannot escape what we are. We can only choose when to unleash it. The Veleth Elder, oldest member of the Coalition Council, rose from his seat. He had lived for 300 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He approached Seung-ho slowly. You are afraid of yourself, he said. Your entire species is afraid of itself. Yes. The elder was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He placed one of his 4 hands on Seung-ho's shoulder. That fear, he said, is what makes you different from the Krath. They love destruction. You hate it. You hate what you are, even as you use it to protect others. He turned to address the council. The humans did not hide their strength because they wanted to deceive us. They hid it because they did not want to be defined by it. They wanted to be known for their art, their kindness, their creativity. He looked back at Sunho. They wanted to be better than their ancestors. We still want that, Sunho said quietly. We always will. Thrall stepped forward again. His voice had lost some of its anger. What happens now? You have shown the galaxy what you truly are. You cannot put the mask back on. No, we cannot. Sunho straightened his shoulders. So we offer a different kind of relationship. We will serve as the Coalition's protectors. When threats arise, we will face them. We will be the sword that guards the peace. And in return, help us stay human. Sunho's voice was pleading now. Remind us of the beauty we found among you. Give us reasons to be artists and traders and diplomats. Help us be more than the war gods we were born to be. The council debated for 3 days. In the end, they agreed. Not because they had no choice, but because they understood. Humanity was not asking for power. They were asking for redemption. Park Do-hyun returned to his position as diplomat. The work was harder now. Every alien he met knew what humans really were. But slowly, over time, trust began to rebuild. Not the innocent trust of before, but something stronger. Trust built on truth. Kim Yuna resumed her cultural studies. She no longer hid human history. She taught it openly, all of it. The beauty and the horror. Aliens began to understand that humanity's art was beautiful because it was created by creatures who knew the ugliness of war. On a quiet evening, Do-hyun and Yuna stood at the observation window of a rebuilt station. Stars filled the void, peaceful and eternal. Do you think they will ever trust us again? Yuna asked. Do-hyun considered the question. He thought about Thrall, who still called him friend. He thought about the Velith children who had sent thank-you letters to human soldiers. He thought about the Coalition species who had started studying human history, trying to understand. Not the way they did before, he said, but maybe something better. They know what we are now. They know we could destroy them if we wanted to. And they know we never will. How do they know that? Do-hyun smiled. It was a sad smile, but real. Because we have spent 60 years proving it. We had the power to conquer the galaxy. We chose to trade instead. We chose to create art. We chose to help. He looked at her. That is who we want to be. And every day we choose it again. Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she asked the question that had haunted humanity since they first reached the stars. Is that enough? Do-hyun watched the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the borders, protecting the peace they had fought so hard to preserve. Somewhere out there, human soldiers trained for wars they hoped would never come. Somewhere out there, human children were learning to be artists and teachers and dreamers. It has to be, he said finally, because the alternative is unthinkable. We will spend the rest of eternity proving that we are more than what we were born to be. And if we fail, if we ever become the monsters again, then we deserve to be destroyed. He turned away from the window. But I do not think we will fail. Because we have something the Krath never had. Something that makes us different from every other warrior species in the galaxy. What is that? Hope. Do-hyun smiled again, and this time it reached his eyes. We hope that one day, the war gods will truly sleep forever. And until that day, we will keep fighting. Not against enemies, against ourselves. The stars shone on, indifferent and beautiful. The galaxy was at peace. And humanity, the dormant war deities, kept watch. They always would.